full-time MMA?
MMA.
Nothing
Yeah.
else?
My life, man, yeah.
Back to the daily grind. Thanks for checking out the channel. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
Dana White, El Jefe himself, has came out and actually spoken out against adding additional weight classes for the first time that I've seen. I mean, until this point, everybody has been for adding additional weight classes, except for one fighter last week who also said what Dana White's reiterating today, and it's actually a really good point I didn't think of until I really heard about this, and they got a fucking good point. Although I think adding additional weight classes, like just the few that they're talking about, like the 165 and the 195, you know, they're talking about adding 3 weight classes and like taking away 170. I think I'm fine with that. I mean, I don't know. Actually, I'm probably fine either way, and I understand where both sides are coming from. This is what Dana White had to say. I mean, the argument for cutting weight or for adding additional weight classes is, you know, people are saying like they have to cut too much weight in between like 170 and 155 is a 15-pound jump. In between 205 and 185 is a 20-pound jump, compared to like 135, 145, 155, where those guys can go up and down weight classes in just 10 pounds. So it makes it a little easier for those guys to become 2-weight champions because they can go up 10 pounds and win a belt, as opposed to the 185 pounders, you know, who might have to go up 20 pounds to win an additional belt. So for that reason, extra belts would help those guys have more success becoming 2-weight champions. The main argument though is for health issues. The main argument for weight cutting issues is for health. People say these guys are cutting too much weight. Like if you look at the Kevin Lee weight cut at just as recent as UFC 216, where he, you know, missed weight, championship weight, and then he had an extra hour to make the weight, which he did, but they were talking about like pouring bottles of boiling hot water on him and shit to make the weight, and he showed up barely able to step on the scales, and he had a staph infection. And you know, and Paige Van Zant's another person, you know, that who's talked about having bad weight cuts. I'm just going off the people off the top of my head. I mean, Khabib Nurmagomedov at UFC 209, you know, he had trouble with his weight cut. And the guys who have consistent trouble with their weight cuts, as in like a Khabib Nurmagomedov, he would have to go up 15 pounds to move up weight classes. And Khabib, I mean, being a wrestler, I mean, okay, so the next weight class would be at 165 pounds. The difference between 165 and 170 is only 5 pounds, but at the same time, that's a lot, especially if you're talking about like someone with a wrestling base, because, you know, the size matters more so in wrestling. So somebody like Khabib that is angling to control a guy, you know, and dominate him with the wrestling, it's going to be a lot harder for him to out wrestle those 170 pounders than the 155 pounders, because the guys that fight at 170 are probably cutting down from 210 or something. Khabib's probably going to be cutting down from like 185. You know, it's just hard for him to make 155, but 170 would be a lot easier, but he would just be smaller at the weight class. So they say maybe he would look really good at 165, which would be a weight class added. So I mean, this is Dana White's argument against it though, and he's saying that it wouldn't really help the health issues, as everybody's saying. Even Joe Rogan, he's a guy coming out and talking about how extra weight classes would help with the bad weight cuts and stuff. But this is what Dana White had to say. People are like, add weight classes, do this, do that. It's never going to change. Still going to have people trying to, let's say I add a 165 pound weight class. That will only mean bigger guys will try to make 165. Everybody's always looking for an advantage, and he's got a great point there. So we've got a 170 pound division now. So the guys that are having trouble making 170 pounds, they're going to be like, well, shit, instead of fighting all the way at 185, I'm just going to try and make that extra 5 pound weight cut and get down to 165. So this could make people try and push new limits. So let's say a guy that fights at 205 right now, he doesn't, you know, he's barely making 205, but he's definitely not going down to 185. Throw in a 195 pound division. Now this big 240 pound motherfucker might be trying to make 195 pounds. You know, this big ass 260 pound. You know what I'm saying? this could work both ways. Yes, it can have some people try and fight closer to their natural weight class, but that would still kind of be giving up their advantage. If Khabib fights at 165, I mean, ideally, you would think he has less of an advantage than when he fights at 155. Unless you're using the argument that, well, Khabib, you know, when he gets to 155, he has bad weight cuts, so it takes away from his stamina and his performance. But that's not the case, because he's undefeated and he's never gassed out. So when he can make 155, he's dominant. Would that be the case at 165? Even though that's probably where he should be fighting, just from, you know, him missing weight before and the issues Khabib's had, his health issues. I mean, maybe 165 is the right spot, but he would probably try and still make 155 because that's where he would have the biggest advantage. And Dana said, I mean, as everybody knows, everyone's always looking for an advantage. So, I mean, that kind of shoots down the main reason for adding weight classes, which is kind of unfortunate. I was looking forward to the 195, 165, and 205 pound divisions. I mean, it would have been cool to see Daniel Cormier, somebody that fights at 205, also get to fight at 225. I mean, it's a 20-pound jump, which, I don't know, I'm kind of, you know, then people would start saying, well, what about 215? What about 235? You know, I mean, I don't know. At what point are we starting to water it down? At what point is having a weight class every 10 pounds? I mean, we already talk about how thin the light heavyweight division is, and even the heavyweight division at times. So how does that work if half of the heavyweights go to 225 and half of the light heavyweights go to 225, and then the light heavyweight class and the heavyweight class just got ripped out and they were already kind of thin? So is adding to a bunch of weight classes gonna, you know, water down the sport? I know, in my opinion, it does with boxing. They got like a weight class like every 7 pounds or some shit. Like, I couldn't tell you what a fucking welterweight was in boxing, a super welterweight, a super junior welterweight, middleweight champ. Like, come on, dog. Like, it gets to be too many at some point. So maybe the UFC is at the right number right now. Maybe guys need to just get more professional with their weight cutting. That's another thing I know Dana White has talked about. UFC Performance Institute, even though it's based out of Las Vegas only currently, or well, to my knowledge, they provide free food, free athletic training, free fucking athletic everybody. Athletic, what was I about to say? They got everything. Free supplements, free fucking anything you could ask for. Massages. What's the word of this? I'm stupid. I can't think of this word. It's on the top of my head, and I'm about to come to me. Nutritionist. Boom. Fucking bang. Nutritionist. They give you free nutritionist. Anything that you can use at that state-of-the-art performance is all free for UFC fighters. So Dana White talks about fighters like Kevin Lee, who are especially based out of Las Vegas. Like, there's not really any reason for him to be having that hard of a weight cut. We'll offer him this free help, but he wanted to do it his way. But I mean, what about the fighters that are not based out of Las Vegas? That doesn't really work for them, but maybe they could hire a different nutritionist. I don't know if Khabib already has a nutritionist that he's working with, but I don't really know how a fighter's probably gonna like miss weight with a nutritionist unless they're not listening to him or something. I don't know. I don't really know. So I don't know. So what do you guys think about adding weight classes, though? That's really what this video is about. Not fucking nutritionist. Took me too long to think of that word anyway. But so I like Dana White's argument here, and this might be enough to stall adding weight classes for the simple fact the main argument for adding weight classes is the health issue. Dana White's argument, it might make guys hurt themselves even more to add weight classes, and it's a good point. So with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know the fuck you talking about in the comments. I'm out.
Bye, Felicia.